music doesn't really fit because music is more, what is it? Because you have like a ton of different, you can have different genres and people, like this, like that. But movies, games, comic books, then you have music. Music, people don't nerd out over music as much. It's not really like a nerd topic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's true. That's true.
Stuff changes that, like Gorillaz, they're coming out with an animated show.
Oh, really?
That's awesome. I think that's supposed to be a cartoon, or they were working on one years ago, and I think they're finally going to do it. Heck, if you look at all of their music videos as a story being told, it's all part of their lore. And so, I mean, that kind of counts. But
it's kind of the same thing with Daft Punk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and so, there are some bands and stuff that kind of fit into a deeper lore. I was trying to think, is like heavy metal bands do that a lot?
Depends on, not really animation. Like, I know, like, in a few Metallica
There's like
ones,
continuity.
Yeah, Spit Out the Bone was basically like a machine apocalypse where machines took over and something like that.
I guess in that regard, then
Korn did it.
You could nerd out over music. I mean, hell, like Kiss fans, ICP, and St. Cloud Posse, the Juggalos, they have extreme, like the Beatles back in the day, it was like a mania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of all the
Yellow
screaming
Submarine.
Fans. The Beatles had lore for certain things, like I want to say it was Yellow Submarine was the story, but then they also had the Sgt. Pepper stuff. The Sgt. Pepper movie was a little bit story being told. Heck, they did Help, Hard Day's Night. Like, they told movies, so you kind of had more. I don't know if I'd call that lore, but you had more to consume.
Yeah.
They were so commercial, and I mean, but again, you can go on and on about movies. But back to games. The issue that I always bring it up every time I talk about it, whenever I ask people about when they were younger and what gaming and nerd culture was like as a kid. I always remember the quote because I'd always had that feeling of why was it so different when I was younger, and then now it's just so. And I don't even want to say mainstream because I don't feel like mainstream is accurate. I feel like something like nerd culture now with gaming, movies, even comics because of the Marvel movies, right?
Yeah.
It's not mainstream. It's part of what is the zeitgeist. Like it's part of life now. It's not something that you are familiar with it, whether you are part of it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
It's not, like there's some people who don't use mouthwash, but that doesn't mean that mouthwash is not, or I should say toothpaste. Toothpaste is more, you can have your specific brands, you can have your whatever. It's almost like a necessity. Everybody has something that they nerd out over.
Yeah, of course.
But because of, I guess, about the quote in, I don't remember the quote, but the book, Rainn Wilson's book, Rainn Wilson, Dwight Schrute from The Office, in his book, I forgot the name of the book, he had put, he was writing about how when he was a kid, it wasn't cool to be a nerd. And that is 100% my life. When I was younger, everybody, I'm pretty sure it was you're only a year younger than me.
Yeah.
Growing up in the 90s, it was very much, if you had game consoles, I mean, the PlayStation hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, we're still playing.
So it's still 64 is later.
It was
Super Nintendo,
yeah, Super
NES.
Nintendo and Nintendo. That's all you had. Oh, and the Sega.
Yeah, well, I had the Sega, right? I guess, but growing up with all that, no one really cared. It was when the PlayStation came around, or at least this is my experience, when the PlayStation came around, and we started going to school and talking about games, then that's when people were like, "Oh, that's nerd stuff," and nobody, "Oh, I'm too cool for that," and so you ask yourself, what were they so focused on as kids back then? You know what I mean?
I mean, back then, if you really think about it, growing up back in the 90s, man, like, like, if you remember any of the commercials, like, a lot of it had to do with going outside and being physical. Like, during the summer, you would always see, like, the Super Soaker commercials about the new water gun that was coming out that can shoot 115
Nerf or nothing.
Yeah, Nerf Wars. Or they would also be showing you the Vortex football, I know it was sponsored by, what was his name? He was, was it John Elway?
Oh, I don't even remember.
It was I can't remember, but
I
it
remember
was
laser tag.
Yeah,
and I had laser tag.
Oh yeah, I had laser tag too. I even had that little robot that would go around and try and shoot it. I got that one. But that's the thing. It's just like growing up, it was all about not being physical, going outside.
Yeah.
So that way, those people like me and you, I didn't have anything against going outside, but.
Well, we played baseball.
And football.
Yeah, we were constantly busy. We were active all the time. It's just we also like to play games.
But okay, so let me ask you this: like growing up, did you ever talk with anyone outside of like your friend group, like growing up, about video games and or were you ever like tormented by bullied for it? I guess you could say.
I wouldn't say bullied. It was mostly like. You became known for something, and then because nobody knows you, and one thing they know about you is that you are the gaming guy, and that's how it was for me. I was the gaming guy, and so growing up, it was always little remarks like oh nerd, and oh Caleb plays his games. He's all stuck in these gaming stuff, and it's like petty. Nobody was being truly hateful. It's not like it was this terrible existence, but there weren't a lot of us.
That's very true.
And so it was like you had, and it's all forms of nerd and geek, whatever culture you want to call it. It essentially that's what it was. It wasn't widespread. It wasn't until like the PS2 era when I started having everybody that I knew was all of a sudden now playing Madden and Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, Madden and Grand Theft Auto, and largely the PS2, I think, are at fault for like the casual gaming crowd. And so, it wasn't until, was it 2000, 2001, that changed. But before that, it was what would be a good thing to describe?
Like that actually made gaming more mainstream?
Well, what is it that attracts you to it, right?
What attracted me to it was actually...
No, not specifics. What is it in general that attracts humans to, like, deep in gathering all this information that is essentially pointless?
Okay.
What is fascinating about nerd culture? I guess, yeah, so what's the first thing that kind of you nerded out over?
Like when because my my older brother was the one who got me into it, right? And it first started off to comics, and then when he got, he bought me my first Super Nintendo, and it was playing, I think it was X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. It was that side-scroll beat 'em up.
Yeah. How much older was he than you?
She's about 12 years older than I am.
Oh, okay. So he was probably already like working and stuff.
Yeah, he was working and like.
I was like, dang, your older brother?
Yeah, like he's about 12 years older than I am, and he was the one who got me into that. And what made it cool is that like reading like these comic books about like for example X-Men. Reading X-Men, you're like, oh, this is cool. You're reading through it, you get into the story, and now here it's like, bam, now play as your favorite X-Men, like Gambit, Wolverine, Cyclops, But then I think what started attracting other people to it, like, this is what I noticed, like you said, during like the when the PS1 came out, was like football. Because how everyone's like, okay, do you have a favorite football team?
Me?
Yes.
Probably the Eagles.
Okay. Eagles. Do you and like I wouldn't tell them.
2003 Eagles.
Okay, all right. If you want to be accurate about it, because Cowboys now, no, Cowboys back in the '90s, that was a different story.
I was a big fan when McNabb was the quarterback.
But like it was like, I'm good. Let's have like RB. It was kind of like what would be considered like today's Marvel's What If. like show. I was like, well, who would win if if who would go like the losing team? Like, what if like the Chiefs went against the Cowboys? Yeah. Who would win? It's like,
man, it's crazy because like we played a lot of football, pickup games or whatever in the street, but I never, because I have a buddy who is extremely into sports, and he's probably a bigger nerd than I am, but it's so strange to me how he is attracted to the sport. I don't know if it's the statistics or what it is about it. Maybe it's just an innate quality in a man to be attracted to football is what it feels like, right? Like, but I don't know. I like to play football. Football's okay to watch, but I don't know. I never really understood the fascination with sports beyond just like I guess that's how I disconnect from these other people is sports are okay, it's fun, it's something to fill time, and I think I'm a casual fan, and I guess that would be the definition is I'm a casual fan, and that is what I disliked for a real long time, casual fans of gaming who don't think it's special, who think it's just something to fill time.
No.
I don't think that whenever I was growing up, I didn't feel like playing Final Fantasy or Metal Gear or Tomb Raider. I didn't feel like those things were expendable. I didn't feel like there was an old advertisement, Tomb Raider, and it's so funny because we put things in here.
Things right here.
But it's so funny because back in the 90s, there was an old advert that came in magazines, and it was a picture of a guy like huddled in a corner, and he was like lamenting over Lara Croft. Like I guess he couldn't get enough. So there's like posters of all this Lara Croft stuff, right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But what's funny is I made one of those posters because I was like, oh, I'm a big Tomb Raider fan, So I have a Tomb Raider poster with all these little cutouts of all the Tomb Raider games and all back from like the 90s. Like I still try to play the new games, but I'm not as big a fan. But it's funny because back then we used to soak up information so deep, like it became a part of you, like it affected you.
Yeah.
And that's the type of person I am, is if I am going to, and I had mentioned this on the Metal Gear thing we were talking about, was it's so easy to get behind a character, or to be connected. You feel connected to a source.
Yeah.
Like I can watch, I'm pretty sure you can watch anime, fantasy, I'm trying to think of just random anime off the top of my head, but something that you watch that you don't identify with anybody in the show. Certainly you can still watch it and say, yeah, that's good, that's fine. But it's when you can identify, or for me at least, when I identify with somebody, then it becomes something more, something bigger, something like...
It's something special to you.
Yeah, it's special. That's exactly right.
Because, you're right. I can't identify with, it's a good show, like My Hero Academia. Good show, but I can't identify with the characters like that. It's like,
kind of hard.
It's really hard. But, one of the ones that from what I can think of is, have you seen Black Lagoon?
No.
Okay, so it's a group of mercenaries, and this one guy, normal guy, his name's Rocky. Normal guy, he came from a business, and he's surrounded by, Revy, who's like this badass chick that, wields two Berettas, and she's awesome, she's the one that's killing everyone. Dutch is like the calm, cool captain of the entire group, and then you have like their analytical expert who does everything, like the computer guy. Yeah. And I'm like, if I can get behind Rock, why he's so he's so timid, he's surrounded by these people that are, badass, and that they're doing all kinds of badass stuff, but then it's just like, here he is, the normal guy that really can't do
kinda
much.
I was going to say Donatello, but no, he can still fight.
Yeah, Donnie can still fight, but Rock really is just is kind of like the voice of reason, I guess you can say. he's kind of like, come on guys, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we can. And it's like, I feel like if I was thrust in a situation like that, it's like, yeah, that would totally be me. That's like, I'm totally rock. I'd be like, do we really have to do this? I mean,
That's
come
a lot,
on,
guys. This is gonna take up time.
But I mean, to be invested in something like that, like I can tell you right now. Remember, when we were talking about Metal Gear, we briefly brought up The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Remember, that one, like I can get behind what Joel did.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
like, cause being that we're parents, and like that was the first game ever. I'm gonna say that on camera. This is the first game that I played that I cried at the end of the end, and I was like at the beginning.
Yeah, it was like the first 10 minutes of the game.
And it was just
set
like
the scene for the rest.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, growing up, like going back to what we were talking about, growing up back then, you were kind of just labeled as like, oh, you're the geek, you're the nerd, or like a few times I was targeted like with Pokemon when Pokemon trading cards was started. Like
people didn't get it.
Yeah, like there was the lore
it.
behind it, like I had Pokemon Blue on my Game Boy, like it helped me immerse yourself more into the world of Pokemon.
I think for people who got into Pokemon card collecting, like for me it was like middle school, and it's funny because it was actually Ruben who, me and him like had that conversation. He gave me my first Pokemon card. It was a Parasect, and I'm certain he gave it to me because it was worth nothing in a garbage. It looked garbage, right? But 100%, I think the people who didn't get into it was because they didn't have access. I really do think that a big part of what prevented nerd culture from exploding like it did in the early 2000s, late 2000s. I'd say the late aughts, right?
Yeah.
It had already taken over the world. By the time Call of Duty 4 and then follow up Modern Warfare 2, didn't Modern Warfare 2 eclipse like all forms of entertainment?
Yeah,
in terms of sales and like there's no doubting at that point how much money's being put into it because people are coming into it. And so I think really it might have just been access that stopped people, and naturally maybe there was just jealousy, like, oh, this kid has something that we don't, and so just a little bit of jealousy. And again, like maybe I'm just repressing the memories, but I don't remember being bullied. Like I remember people would try and make comments and like I'd argue back and poke fun back, it was tit for tat, but like ultimately though, I do remember being kind of like the chubby loner kid, and I didn't have like a ton of friends. Like I didn't really, like aside from like our baseball team that we hung out with all the time, like I didn't really hang out with like a ton of people outside of my home. If it wasn't family or baseball team friends, like I didn't hang out with anybody. I didn't have friends from school.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess maybe we were a little, I don't want to say sheltered because we experienced a lot in life.
But I guess you can say I don't want to say outcast because then that sounds too cliche.
Yeah. Like it's not even outcast because think about it. When the casual crowd came around, all of the things that you were doing, that we were doing, it wasn't, it's not like it was ever frowned upon. It was like a defining feature.
Yeah.
And maybe it was worse for people before us because, growing up with baby boomer parents and you know what I mean? Like all of them having games and stuff, their parents did great things in the war and all of them grew up and so their kids grew up playing games, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be exactly the ideal situation for them. But in our day and age, like, there's not much going on. Heck, you can make a living. And it's funny because, we are a little bit older, but you hear people, like back in, let's go back 15 years, and you would think, growing up, we never imagined you could make a living playing games unless it was, what's that old, I want to make a living playing game. I want to make games and get paid to do it, that whole dream as a kid.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know, man, like, it just, I don't know exactly when it shifted. I think the PS2 was the first big shift. Last I checked, PS2 is still the fastest or the best-selling console of all time, right? I think it's still PS2.
Maybe.
Like 144 million or something like that.
To be honest with you, I haven't looked it up. I know there's a lot of console people out there that are like the fanboys that are just like, I'll never buy Xbox because I've been playing PlayStation for years.
Oh, yeah.
But you have those fanboys, so it's kind of hard to say.
I never got... again, the whole fanboy thing, I think it really is like access.
Yeah.
Because I was the only friend when the PS3 came out. For a long time, I was the only one in my circle who had a PS3. And I didn't play games with everybody. Like, I played Metal Gear Online from old PS2 stuff. I played, whatever I had, I played. But it took a few years before everybody started getting them, and it was like, frequent, it was regular. But everyone would always dog PlayStation, and I never got it. I never understood because they didn't have it. Everyone wanted what they had to be the best. They had bought into this. They invested in this, their time, their energy, their effort. And I never had, and I didn't buy an Xbox till 5 years later after it released. And I still, to this day, I just still don't get it. Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses.
Yeah, of course.
But, and of course, like, everybody has preference. And I have my preferences, but PS2 is definitely to blame for the invention, I think, of the casual crowd.
Yes.
The DVD part of it.
Yeah, like, it's a
the
DVD
cheapest DVD player.
And
Madden and Grand Theft Auto 3. That's it.
Yeah. And then after that was like the spawn of like Vice City and then all this and like the more the casual.
Madden,
but I think the moment
year.
that really defined like casual gamers versus the nerds, I think was when PlayStation was like PlayStation and Xbox, the first ones, introduced PlayStation Online and Xbox Live.
Oh, that was.
I think that was like the defining moment that separated the casual gamers from the hardcore nerds, like what we were. Because like for you, like you said, it was Metal Gear Online, right?
Well, I think. Well, the original PlayStation, you mean the PS2 had the online, right?
Yeah.
And it was like way later with the network adapter, but I think that all of that was nice, but if the PS2 invented the casual crowd, I would say Xbox Live on the 360 is what created the divide between hardcore and casual. But it also created, I don't know, because then there's the Wii. The Wii took what the PS2 did to extremely new heights, but then Xbox Live on the 360 is what... See, but then now I'm hesitant to even say that because, again, I didn't even really play online. See, okay, this is a perfect example.
Okay.
What is a hardcore gamer? Because I never really... Like, I play, like, Street Fighter online. I play... I still do a lot of fighting game stuff.
Beast.
Well, it's the Daigo's team. But
yeah.
I do a lot of fighting game stuff. I used to do a lot of shooters until my eyes got bad. I play a lot of RPGs. But why is that not considered hardcore gaming?
I think
to me, casual gaming is jumping on Fortnite, jumping on Call of Duty, and just playing with your friends as an excuse to talk.
Come on now.
You know what I mean?
No.
I'm dead serious. Like,
no, I mean, I
to
get
me,
you.
that's casual. Like, that's not hardcore.
But at the same time, people like, I've been playing Call of Duty since it was out on the PlayStation, the PS2. I don't, if there was one, no, Medal of Honor was on the PS1. Call of Duty, like the big red one, World at War, all that was just like, that's when I got introduced to playing Call of Duty. And then when Call of Duty 4 came out, a friend of mine that I worked at Walmart with showed it to me. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty badass, I like it. And then Modern Warfare 2 was when I was just like introduced to, hey, there's online mode now.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't know about that, because like, for me, I mean, what you're talking about, like hardcore gaming, like RPGs and stuff like that, that does make you...
I think that there's a general consensus that owning... Because earlier you had said that the Xbox Live created the divide between hardcore and casual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a consensus that agrees with that statement, but looks at, because I had somebody tell me one time, I had said I had a PS4, and she said as an insult, she said, "Oh, so you're a casual gamer?" That's what she told me, and I instantly got so offended, and I was like, and it was like a work setting, and I told her, I was like, "Excuse me, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean that makes me a casual gamer?" I think she's like a pretend streamer, like she streams stuff, but she, I don't know what she does, because I've never watched any of it, and I don't have any ill will or anything towards her. She made that comment because I believe she believes that. But I asked myself, why? Why would someone believe that? Because I'll put 200 hours into an RPG in my spare time between doing all my, necessary things in life, and then I have a month to put 200 hours into a game. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of, missed sleep. That's a lot of, I could have been doing something more productive. I don't know if it gets more hardcore than wasting time like that.
Like, no.
Not conversing with people, not I mean, like, I just shut in. But if I want to talk to friends, I'll call up a buddy and talk to him on the phone, or we'll go hang out and get something to eat.
Yeah.
But it is true, I loved playing Call of Duty and talking to friends, because I also enjoy playing Call of Duty. I actually been meaning to get into Apex, because I've had it on my PS4 for so long I haven't even played it. I've been trying to get a whole bunch of buddies who still play to play with me. Fortnite, stuff like that, it's just, to me, that's time wasters. You're not really doing anything. Go back to all the time you spent in Modern Warfare 2. Mm-hmm. Did you ever prestige? You prestiged a lot?
I don't know how many. I think I made it up to prestige 20.
Okay, but, and everyone always talks about it, your EPing, right?
Yeah.
You have nothing to show for all of that time, except your memories.
Yeah,
that's all you have.
Yeah.
And that's hardcore, because that's a lot of time invested with nothing to show for it, besides memory.
Yeah.
And I played MGO, and so I have thousands of hours of wasted time, but I wouldn't trade that time for anything in the world. And so, to me, that's pretty hardcore, the amount of time you'll put into something.
Yeah.
But I would never take away from people who play, like, I have a friend who plays Animal Crossing. She plays a ton of games, but she probably played, I think on her Switch it tells you it's like 300, 400 hours. That's a lot of time. I have like 300 or 400 hours in Animal Crossing. Like, that's a lot of time for Animal Crossing. You know what I mean? That's wake up. I have a buddy who every single day he does his daily tasks in Animal Crossing. Every single day. Checks the store, checks his flowers every day. That's a huge commitment. And that is not, and he played WoW, so I mean, he had his, like, social things or whatever, but to me, a casual gamer, and here this is me being exclusive, right? Or excluding people.
Yeah, exclusion.
I never considered people who played Madden or just solely Madden to be hardcore gamers, right?
Yes.
I never felt that way. I never felt like if all you played was NBA Live or 2K or I say NBA Live, but dated myself.
No,
I know
man, what? No.
So,
but just like NBA 2K,
Madden,
FIFA,
or FIFA.
What was the other one?
For hockey?
No, not NHL. I haven't even seen an NHL.
But they
game
used to
in
be
a
the
long time.
NCAA games until they quit those.
Yeah, until they stopped using
but
those. But
all of that stuff, all the EA, the entire EA lineup. I used to just hate on them. MLB, the MLBs.
Yeah, MLB. Yeah.
I used to hate on them so much when I was working at GameStop, but I feel like, in all honesty, there's some people who take that serious.
No, there is, but I mean,
and you have to respect it. People that drop that much time into something.
Yeah, but here's the thing: those people that drop that much time into something like that, then they turn around and be like, "Well, why do you play that?"
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like,
it's a lack of respect.
Yeah, I mean, because
with anybody, there's a lack of respect.
The longest I've ever had into a game was Skyrim. I have played that game over and over. But then there's like some things where like, you know, like with the game as massive as Skyrim with as many add-ons as there is and mods.
Didn't they just announce a new release as well?
Yeah, they're releasing PS5
X?
and Xbox One X, or the new Xbox.
Just the new
Xbox and PlayStation are getting a new one. You know, and everyone's like, well, why aren't they coming out with Elder Scrolls 6? And it's like, well, it's because they probably don't want to. I mean, we're still waiting on Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, that game I've invested so much time, and it's just like, oh, how many, like, I don't even know how much hours I've had. Like, it's well over like 400. I'm pretty sure it's well over that.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing with World of Warcraft. You know, oh, you play World of Warcraft? That's your game? Like, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to do.
It's a huge game that's always keeps getting updated. With what I actually like doing, like, me and my wife would farm, like, we did mount runs. Like, since we're like way over the level cap,
Yeah.
she would take me on mount runs or do achievement runs in like old raids to get mounts. You know, like, and a lot of people don't have that. Well, I don't want to do that. It's taking too much time. I'd rather just go quest. And it's like, well, there's still a bunch of small things that you can do.
Y'all play WoW still regularly?
We haven't played it in a few months. We haven't played the new updated patch of WoW. We stopped it with the current expansion. We stopped, and then I'm pretty sure when the new expansion comes out, we're probably gonna just jump on it for a few months and then do the same thing.
WoW is a game that I always, and I would always say the same thing every time anybody ever tried to get me to play. I know my personality, and humans, you can have the addictive gene, or the addiction gene,
Yeah.
and I knew, looking at that game, that if I got into it, that I was never gonna get out. I knew it. And so when I got that free copy, when I was working at GameStop back in 05, like, or 05, 06, whatever, I got a free copy and I brought it home, and I was like, I want to play, I want to do this, I want to do that. I just gave it to my brother and let him do it, because I was like, I can't do it. That's too much. It's too big of a commitment. Sitting at the computer, I like to lay down when I play games.
Yeah, and just like, you don't think you could do that unless you have that setup where you can lean back. And...
It was too big of a commitment for me, and as a hardcore gamer, I saw the signs. I knew.
WoW, I'm not gonna lie, WoW is crack. WoW is like one of like the dude, yeah.
I honestly think that it's one of I mean, how can you argue against it being like the best game ever made? And I know Activision Blizzard's going through all that stuff right now with all the sexual assault and or harassment, but honestly, like, if you're being real, that game's been around for a long time. What's it, like 15 years already?
Yeah.
It's like 2005 or 6, right?
No.
Or is it before that?
It's before that.
Oh,
it was
like
in 2003.
Really?
02 or 03.
Okay, well, that's a long time.
Yeah.
For it to still be relevant, for people to still soak up so much of their day, you know, steeped in WoW, World of Warcraft. Like, it's absolutely, it has to be like the best game. I always say, like, Tetris, Pac-Man, best games ever made, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can do a whole day of I could do a whole, like, we could do a whole conversation about the best games ever made, which we should do.
Yes, that would actually be a good one.
But in terms of the casual gaming, right? When it shifted, not even counting gaming, counting movies, people have always nerded out over movies, even when I was a kid.
Star Wars.
Star Wars was big, but even Star Wars used to draw the ire of people who didn't get it. You know, I don't get it. And it's like, what is there to get? It's either you like the material that you're watching, you enjoy these fantasy settings. A big thing for me, for what it means to be into like nerd stuff. For you, when you're watching something, is there ever anything that you just like? Maybe you watched at one point, but now you just don't care for because you don't care about. I'm trying to come up with a good example. Like, I used to watch a lot of like suspense, murder, thrillers, and stuff like that. But as I got older, like, I just don't care anymore.